time when I got dressed up.
There's God. Yeah, they went
Hi, Reggie. How are you?
I did. So cute. Lucy, my granddaughter, is a Polish one. Every time I see her, Noni, my granddaughter, Polish one, Special Olympics. She said, how am I not together? You're not going to die. But they had a song. See, this was all the high school. And you donated a lot of hours. Yeah. How did she do it? She came out. They get wrapped up again. Wrapped up right away. Yeah, and they had a warming tent. Lake Mendota. And we took a bus from the building. They had last year they had 3 buses. This year we got 1. We got here's the other side of the lake.
I heard he was there, right? I heard him last night. Yep, he's there.
He's a good grandpa. How are you? Hey, say hi to him.
Are you testing one right? Good luck. I'm flying tomorrow. I'm flying. I'm taking a lot of zebras today. Florida. I got that. I can't see what it is though. We're going to Cape Coral. It's by Fort Myers. Yeah. Oh yeah. My aunt lived down there and she passed away last October. She had a boyfriend down there, so we are going to go see her. It'd be nice to get away from the cold. Yeah, just go. You don't need it.
She'll be 2 in May. She is such a character. Oh,
She'll keep you young. She'll keep you young.
oh, I just love it.
That's great.
There's not a whole lot of seniors to be doing it in this area.
No, there's not.
Standard still has
The
that.
senior center's very nice.
Yeah. I do
You're not, and it's like $1 or $2 to have for lunch, which is hardly anything. And they have a whole gamut of activities. I mean, they play games, they have parties.
Yeah.
It's very, very nice.
I know my mother really enjoyed it until she passed away. It's too bad Peru can't get something started.
It's hard to get those things.
Or they go together. Yeah, I'd like to
Yes, Doug will be going first. Yep, thank you. Let's make sure we mic the video guy.
Welcome to the Peru Library. Thank you so much for attending today's forum. My name is Marty Pack, and I am the Adult and Teen Program Librarian. And before we begin, I'd like to make a few introductions so you kind of know how the program is going to be running today. First of all, I'd like to introduce all of our team that will be here today. First of all, I'd like to introduce Emily Schwab. She's our director, if you just want to raise your hand. And then Mackenzie Kavanaugh, she is our youth director. She's going to be helping me with time. Mike Sabatini is our videographer. Thank you for coming and making this forum possible for on the Starved Rock Media YouTube. Jeremy Aiken is our moderator. And then our candidates are Ken Kolowski and Doug Bernabei. Thank you for taking the time to support our community and to get to know our candidates. And then don't forget to get out and vote. But before we get started, a few housekeeping things. If you would silence your phones or shut them off. And if you need to use the restroom, if you go out into our lobby to the left, down the hallway are our restrooms. And I am going to go ahead and turn it over to Jeremy, and he's going to run the rest of the program for us.
Thanks, Marty. Once again, I'm Jeremy Aiken, the moderator of today's candidate forum. I want to thank everybody for coming out on a really nice Sunday, sunshine, and joining us for this forum today. Pretty straightforward forum. We did a predetermined coin flip to see who goes first, and candidate Doug Bernabei will go first on the opening statement. Some of our rules are how the forum is going to work today. Each candidate will be allowed 3 minutes during the opening and the closing statements. And then as we go along with the questions, each candidate will get about 2 minutes to answer each question. We have some staff down here who will have cards holding up to Mr. Bernabei and Mr. Kolowski when we get a minute left, 15 seconds. If they go shorter than 2 minutes, that's fine. If they go a little over, that's fine too. Their mic's not going to get cut off or anything as we go over 2 minutes. The library did a great job leading up and promoting, asking questions from the public weeks in advance. And we have a great list of questions here. Because we had so many great questions in advance, we're not going to have questions during the forum from the audience live. So that's one thing we're not going to do today. The questions to Mr. Kolowski, Mr. Bernabei were not provided to them in advance. So, they have their own notes and so forth, but they don't have the questions or in advance with them. Again, any person wanting to watch this afterwards, Starved Rock Media on YouTube will have this for you to watch any time of the day. Just go to YouTube and search Starved Rock Media, and you'll be able to watch this forum going forward. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get this started. And again, want to thank Doug Bernabei and Ken Kolowski for being part of the Peru Mayoral Forum. Thank the Peru Public Library for putting this on. I know this is the first of probably a handful of forums for our candidates. So I want to thank them for taking time and in their busy schedules. And bottom line is making sure we're all informed. I live in Peru as well. So making sure we're all informed. And of course, you can vote already. Early voting started. So go to the courthouse in Etna Road if you want to cast an early vote. But let's go ahead and get started with our introduction. And again, we're going to start with Doug Bernabei.
Okay, thank you. Welcome everyone to this mayoral forum. I want to first start out with a couple of thank yous. One is certainly to Marty and the good people at the Peru Public Library. It wasn't an easy task to put this together. You educated the community that when we were going to have it, you kept putting out your social media things, and that's very much appreciative to give the voters the opportunity to come here in person and to watch Starved Rock Media. I think it's live streamed, and then, as Jeremy said, people can watch it after the fact. So thank you to the Peru Library folks. And thanks to WLPO, John Spencer, for allowing me to come over and moderate this event. Hopefully it's going to be a productive day, and people will come out with some information on both candidates to be informed on Election Day to make your informed decision. I think one thing that's not in my notes, but I'm very confident, at the end of this debate, or forum, whatever we want to call it, and it looks like we have a couple other ones planned. One, the Illinois Valley Chamber of Commerce is going to be hosting a forum at LP Auditorium here in a few weeks, and Shaw Media is trying to put one together where Ken and I would go down to the Shaw Media offices and go through a similar type forum. With that, I want to thank Ken first for participating today and agreeing to do that and agreeing in these future debates. One other person, some people have accused me of being a politician over the years, but really this isn't political. I want to thank his wife, Michelle, because I know what it's like to serve in city government. I've been a police officer, served in city government for 43 years, started out as a street cop, became a homicide detective, and then spent the bulk of my career as a police chief and as a city administrator. Served a couple of stints as a county board member and as a Peru Township trustee. And I can tell you that serving in government, while it's an admirable and it's a wonderful experience, it's not always easy. It can be tough. So to those that have served in city government, served whether it's an appointed or elected official, it's obviously very much appreciated, I know, by Ken and myself. I wasn't planning on doing this, but I do want to recognize a few people that are in the room when I'm making my thanks for people to participate today because of that commitment. There's a lot of current mayors, or past mayors, the current mayor, a lot of elected officials, city clerks, city treasurers, a lot of aldermen that have served in the past and are currently serving and possibly serving in the future. There's a few of them here. I'm going to call them out. And if I miss any of you, I'm so sorry. But I see Jamie Myrtle's here. He's a former alderman. Sherry Mazak is a former alderwoman for the city of Peru. I believe the first, if I'm not mistaken. No? Okay, second. But let's go with the first, Sherry. Anyway, Tony Ferrari's here, a 20-year veteran of being on the city council. Jim Lukosius is here. Mike Sapienza, Mike Radke. Who am I missing? Jason Edgecomb's in the back row, I believe. So to everybody who has served in public service, whether it's an elected or official role, I believe that the public generally appreciates that, and it's not always easy. So thank you for that. I can tell you in 43 years of city government, and that's what my entire adult professional life has been, is serving in various roles in public service. Being your chief of police and your city administrator for 8 years has been the single highest honor that's been bestowed on me in those 43 years. So please know that I'm running for mayor of Peru to serve you, the people of Peru. I want to give back to the community one more time. I'm asking for one more chance. I pledge and I promise. Politicians shouldn't make promises that they can't keep, but there is one I can make and I will keep, that if you elect me as your mayor, I promise that I will make you proud and I will work hard every day, because I believe every single person in this room and every single person in the city of Peru has the same end game and the same goal, and that's to make the city of Peru better. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Once again, that was Doug Bernabei. Now for opening statement is Mayor Ken Kolowski. Don't start the clock yet.
Okay. Hope everybody can hear me. I don't know if you need the microphone or not, but I'd like to emulate also thank you to Peru Library, Starved Rock Media, Jeremy Aiken for doing this today, and everybody that took their time out to do this today. And it means a lot that there's this much interest in our community. As you know, my name is Ken Kolowski. I've been your mayor now for almost 4 years. It's like high school, went fast. But you know, when I started this about 5-6 years ago, and I made this flyer, and this was from 2021. And the flyer, I had campaign outlooks. I don't make campaign promises because there's too many things that factor into your decisions, right? But I basically said, hey, if you elect me, I'll try to accomplish these 12 outlooks. Well, I got 11 of the 12 done, and I get emotional talking about it. The one I did not complete, I said I would pursue a community swimming pool. I did. I found a plan that'll make it work, and I'm looking forward to the future of this project going forward. But again, I'm telling you that because I have a new flyer that I'll be going door to door with, and I have 18 outlooks on this flyer. I figured if I got 11 out of 12 on the first run, I can get 17 or 18 out of this run. You know, I will go back to that. I'll stick with that. You know, number one, I got 18 of these, you'll be getting one. But number one, most important thing for our city, we must grow and maintain our health care in the city of Peru, period. I mean, I was on the front lines when that thing collapsed, and I didn't sleep for a year. I was the cheerleader telling everybody it's going to be okay, but it was tough. And now that we've got them back, we need to make them grow. I'm always in contact with OSF. What do you need? If there's a problem, make sure I'm the first phone call. I want to expand it, more services, more doctors, more clinics, everything. But by far, number one on my 18 list here is, that's by far. Anyway, the other side of it is I wish I had more room on it. How am I doing on time, all right? 30 seconds. Okay, Jesus. Anyway, on the other side, it's just I wish I had more room on this side. We've done a lot in 4 years. I mean, the GAF, OSF, Popeyes, Ollie's, Quick Trip. We've celebrated. We brought energy back to our town. Taste of Illinois Valley. We made our 4th of July amazing. Our Halloween, a 3-year extension on the pistol shrimp. That's a big deal, and people really enjoy that, bringing people in from tourism. The lighted Christmas parade. I also attacked our parks, 15 seconds, okay. A bench program, Pohara Crossing subdivision, 20 new homes have been built up there. The cemetery, and I doubled our infrastructure, doubled it. We've replaced more roads in the last few years than we have ever. And those are the things that have been accomplished. And like I said, I think we're all here to find out what we're going to do rather than that. But I got to brag a little bit, right? So, but anyway, I think my time is up. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. That's the introductory statement, part of the forum. And now we'll get to the questions. And we'll have Ken Kolowski answer this first one. What is the most pressing issue facing the city of Peru today, and why do you think that is the most pressing issue?
Easy. I thought these were going to be hard, Jeremy. Easy. 2 things, in my opinion. You know, we might have a difference of opinion. 2 things facing our city: inflation and the ever-changing industry of retail. Okay? Inflation is extremely hard on you, on me. It's also hard on our city. For example, when I got into office, I wanted to do Water Street from the road from Mays Lumber all the way to the border of our city limits. 4 or 5 years ago, it's $200,000. We did it. I'm proud of it. 300 grand. Then we can do less because we have less money to spend. And it's very difficult. And then the second thing is, how am I doing on time? I'm talking too fast. I'm getting nervous. The ever-changing retail. The one thing I've been in my whole life is retail, 40 years, and I've never seen it like this. We used to have, you know, Kmart closed. Okay, 5 years later, Sears went away. 5 years later, JCPenney's went away. But now it is rapid and it is fast. I mean, losing Big Lots, that's not good. Losing Joanne Fabrics, not good. But we do have the advantage, we brought in Ollie's, and we do have Hobby Lobby. But you got them, and that's what's scary about this thing is the two things I'm telling you that I'm most concerned about are the two things I have no control over, none. And it's very hard, but we have to keep bringing in new retail. And I'm a big believer in fighting inflation with competition. If you have competition, everybody enjoy the gas wars in Peru the last year or so? Quick Trip came in and our gas prices were the lowest in the Illinois Valley. So those are the two things, Jeremy, that I think are most important, and I'm under my 15 seconds. I'm going to quit picking on you. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Ken. Doug, same question for you. In your opinion, what is the most pressing issue facing the city today, and why?
I think that there's two very serious pressing issues that are facing the city of Peru. I think that we have a financial dilemma facing the city. I'm going to be very open and honest and transparent about what I have to share with the people from my perspective. A short 4 years ago, the city of Peru was sitting on $4.3 million in their general fund reserve account. And the general fund is no different than your savings account and your checking account at home. And there's $4.3 million sitting in that fund. And over the last 4 years, we've gone through that money. And from talking to the financial experts, if the current spending continues at the same rate in the future that it has over the 4 years, the city of Peru is faced with one of two choices, or three. One is that we're going to have massive, and I say massive, real estate property taxes, or we're going to have massive cuts in city services, or unfortunately, there are going to be cuts in both. So we have to have somebody at the head of the ship, the captain of the ship, the leader that's willing to work with the city aldermen, to work with the department heads, and to work with the departments to become more strategic and not spend more than we're taking in, because the reserves are gone. They're going away and they're gone. And so if you continue to spend more money than you're taking in, and you're in government, we're not Washington, we can't print money. We've got to go to the taxpayers, or we got to cut the great services in the city. So I think we have to be strategic. I think the other major issue is something that just broke, and I'm not going to speak for the Peru school system, but I think they're going to speak, because I'm not sure if everybody's aware of this, but a letter just went out to all of the parents in the community that are served by the Peru Grade School District. And on March 19th at 5:30 in the evening, there's going to be essentially a town hall forum at Northview School Gymnasium to discuss some unfunded, essentially, mandates. And they're going to talk about all those details, but also their request to Ken and on behalf of the city of Peru to negotiate and continue what I think was one of the best things that happened in this city was Mayor Baker and Superintendent Mark Cross, and a unanimous vote of the city council and the unanimous vote of the school board. And more importantly, 80% of the voters 18 years ago, 80% of the people in this city said, Mayor Baker and City Council, we want you to partner with the Peru schools to help fund the construction and the operation and the equipping of Parkside School, so the Peru schools don't have to raise our property taxes. And my understanding is that request was made of the mayor over the past year, and the answer was, we're not going to continue that. And Northview is facing some major demands and needs. And I believe we're going to hear that if we as a city do not continue some level of partnership, that the Peru schools will have no choice but to raise property taxes. And I know in my particular case, I pay over $6,000 a year in property taxes. And I do well, but that's a lot of money, and we cannot afford to do that. Again, 18 years ago, Mark Cross came to that meeting. I was there. I sat through all those meetings. It was out in the public. It was very transparent. And Don Baker, a lot of these aldermen were on the council at the time. Don Baker looked right at Mark Cross. He says, it's a superstar idea. It's wonderful. It's a great idea. And the mayor of this city and the council's on board, but we want to make sure the people are. So go get a referendum passed. 80% of the voters in Peru said, I'll wrap it up. 80% of the voters said, do it. I've done some research. I can't say I'm absolutely correct 100%, but as far as I can tell, that's the highest successful voter referendum in the history of the city of Peru and maybe the county of LaSalle's history. So I think that the response should be, let's go back to the table. I've talked to the school board members. I've talked to the school board superintendent. If I am successfully elected, I will not make a promise that we'll get a deal done, but I'll make a promise that we'll move heaven and earth to try and get a deal done that's good for the city and is good for the school, because if it's good for the city and it's good for the school, it's good for all of us, and it's good for the kids of Peru. Thank you.
Thank you. And that, talking about finances, that leads into our next question. Doug will actually go first with this one. I guess, Doug, you already kind of gave your answer on the question of the current financial situation, and you mentioned the reserve fund specifically. We had a submitted question that mentioned the general operating reserve investment fund specifically, saying that much of those funds have been depleted. So, candidate Bernabei, what would you do? What are your thoughts on increasing or getting back those reserve funds and improving the financial state of the city of Peru?
Well, I'm going to sit down with every alderman. I think we have an extremely talented, committed, smart group of aldermen in this city. They're business people. They're insurance people. They're all cross-sections of the community, and I believe that they are willing to take leadership. I think they're willing to take ideas, because they don't want to raise property taxes more than anybody. Of course they don't want to do that. So I'm going to work with the elected officials. I'm going to work on our department heads. We have, and I'm here to tell you, we have the best team in place. I was part of forming that team when I was city administrator over 8 years. We hired people like Eric Carls. We hired people like Adam Thorson as our Parks and Recreation Director. We hired Justin Miller and then Tracy Miller as a finance. And that was the work of the previous administration and aldermen that put together a team. So you bring those people together, you bring the aldermen together, you bring the employees together, and you say, just like we do at home, there's so much money available, so we have to make choices. And you know, after 43 years of being a police chief, I've made a lot of decisions, and I can tell you they have not all been popular, especially with the people that work for me, because sometimes you have to say no, or sometimes you have to say not yet. If we do something over a year that maybe it takes 18 months or 2 months, that's how you build back your reserves and you take care and you have that savings account, because we need to have a savings account for the emergencies in the city of Peru. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Ken, the question again, it's kind of a twofold question, I guess. What you see as the current financial situation of the city, and when it comes to reserve funds, what plans do you have to increase those funds?
Well, reserves are there for a reason, and this is an issue that I'm going to strongly disagree with Mr. Bernabei. The city finances are anything but fine. When I read what he said in the paper about a financial crisis, we're living paycheck to paycheck, and there's going to be massive tax increases, none of it's true, okay? We used reserves to partner with GAF, a $100 million factory, to create 70 jobs. The impact of this town to have that is priceless. That was one of the things that we did. Oh, let me back up. I do have a few notes. I am cheating a little bit. When I first got into office, we had to use $1.9 million of the reserves to cover the police department. We had to bond out. We had 2 bonds for the police department that didn't cover it. So we had to use $1.9 million right from the get-go for the PD. Then we partnered with GAF. We made a TIF up there. That will get every dollar that we've invested into that will come back, full, all of it, every dime. Then, Route 6. State of Illinois came to us and said, we got to do Route 6. We're going to repave it. We said, no, we've got 100-year-old infrastructure down there. We got water main breaks. We can't do this. So we budgeted for using reserves to change and fix that infrastructure before you put a 12-year road over this thing. So that was $4.2 million, the biggest infrastructure program ever in the history of Peru. And it's going to be, and thanks, I'll give kudos to Eric Carls. We spent a little bit more because we moved a lot of the infrastructure. If you notice, the sidewalks have been all ripped up too. We moved a lot of the infrastructure underneath the sidewalks. So that way you have a problem down the road, you tear up a sidewalk. You're not tearing up an entire road. The state will not be back to do Route 6 probably for a decade, maybe 12 years. So that was important. And as for, again, getting back to the finances here, I'm cheating here. I'm getting off my rhythm. We made a decision together. The best thing to do was to use reserves because interest rates are so high, it didn't make any sense to bond out and borrow money at this time. It made no sense. We will, again, we're going to get all of this back. So last thing I'll say about this, how am I doing on time? Ooh, I'm over? I'm sorry. Real quick, when I got into office, the city of Peru's debt was $22 million. It is currently $19 million. That's a $3 million decrease. The reserves that we did, we are down 1.1 million. So you take 3 million from the 1.1, that's a net gain of $1.9 million. We're supposed to use reserves for jobs and infrastructure. No wasteful spending, none. So, thank you.
Go ahead, keep the mic, Ken. Yep, you're leading off this one. And while we're hot with finance, we'll stick with and maybe you'll be able to use those notes for this question. It does appear the city budget has significantly increased over the past few years. What strategies are in place to reduce costs, and how do you plan to lower city expenses?
Say that again, real quick.
Yeah, again, these are questions that were submitted by the public. Upon reviewing monthly financial reports online, it appears the city budget has significantly increased over the past few years. What strategies are in place to reduce costs, and how do you plan on lowering city expenses?
Yeah, our budget's increased, but our revenues have increased. We're bringing in more money. We made some decisions. I don't like to use the word I, so when I say the word we, please respect that. We made a decision to raise our hotel motel tax, more revenues. It's bringing in hundreds of thousands of dollars more, and it isn't affecting anybody in this room. The gaming industry, these vendors they provide the machines, and they weren't really paying anything. So I said, well, if you want to be a vendor to put these machines in, you got to give me $5,000. So you have to have a license now to do that. That's $40,000, $50,000. To combat spending, you've raised revenues without taxes. There's been no tax increases. There's been no discussions of tax increases. And as far as I'm concerned, there's no reason to. I've learned a lot in these 4 years. And you lean on your experts. You lean on the Tracy Mitchells. You lean on the Jackson Powells. But the city of Peru is fine. And I'll go back to my thing. We just got January, a month ago. Moody's just gave us a AA3 rating on our credit. That's the third highest you can get in any community, okay? If Moody's is telling the world we're solid, we're good, our books are good. We just came off our last audit. Perfect, flawless, clean audit. I can assure you the city of Peru finances are fine. Cash on hand right now, $26,466,000. Cash, not assets. So, all right, I'm going to defer my 30 seconds.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you. And I'll take the 30 seconds, Ken. Appreciate it. No, same question. In the budget.
What are you looking to do
The budget,
to reduce costs?
listen, we're not going to get personal today. We talked about it, but we have to talk about the issues so the people can be informed. And a couple of things that Ken said are simply not accurate. The budget has gone through the roof for the 3 budgets that he has signed into law. The first budget that he inherited was the previous administration roughly $16.3 million general fund budget to run the day-to-day operations of the city of Peru. 3 budgets later, we've increased our budget by 50%, and we're over $23 million in the general fund budget. And revenue is far under the increase to accommodate that. It's like running our house budget. If you take in $100, but you spend $200, there's going to be a problem. So the budget has gone through the roof over the last 3 years. I've spoken to the city treasurer, I've spoken to the city finance officer, and they have, without any question, have said the current spending is simply not sustainable. That's the stark reality. The minutes of the April 15th, 2024 meeting, folks, this was a meeting with the mayor and others present, and Jackson Powell and the finance director gave a very, very bad report on the city finances. They're not good. Ken's talking about the utility fund and the general fund. You have to separate them, and they made that crystal clear. The general fund is the budget that runs the day-to-day operation. The general fund, we have a $4.3 million deficit. We need to do one of 3 things. We need to increase our revenues, we need to remove the deficit, and we need to decrease our expenses. To remove that deficit, we leave the deficit there because we pull from reserves, but they noted the general fund does not have reserves. These are the official public minutes. This came from the CPA experts for the city of Peru that put him on notice well over a year ago. And that's the stark reality. The numbers can't lie. It is simply not sustainable. So what you need, and my humble opinion, and I really mean this, is you need some leadership that's going to come in and be willing to say, I'm going to do everything within my influence. I'm going to work with these aldermen. I'm going to work with the department heads. I'm going to work with the employees to live within the means, because I pledge to you the last thing I'm going to do is want to turn to the voters of Peru, the residents of Peru, and raise your property taxes through the roof, because nobody wants that. It is simply not sustainable. It's documented here in the minutes, and everybody is aware of it. We need to be honest about it. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you, Doug. Next question, we'll shift away from the budget and finance for just a moment. We'll come back to that for sure. This question mentions city projects, and Doug, you'll be first with this one. City projects often occur in Peru without citizen input. The last time residents provided direct feedback on issues, goals, and priorities was in 1969. This gets to the comprehensive plan. What plans would you have on updating the city's comprehensive plan?
Well, it's one of my initiatives that I have on my list. I think it's absolutely long overdue. It's not a criticism. Things like that get just put on the back table. You take a strategic plan, and I didn't realize it was 1969. That surprises me. It was that long ago, and then maybe it goes on the shelf. In 10, 12 years ago right now, the city decided they wanted to have an in-house city engineer and planning person. They hired, the administration at the time brought Eric Carls on, who is an absolute superstar, rock star. He has a vision for the city of Peru. He's going to carry out the agenda of the mayor and the city council. He's not making the final decisions, as no department head makes the final decisions, but he's got a lot of ideas. I believe that we absolutely have to have a strategic plan. We have to do this. It's time to do that, a comprehensive plan. One of the things I think that we have to focus on over the last 18 months out there on the campaign trail, knocking on doors and just talking to people, is what's going on with the Peru downtown development and what's going on with the Peru Mall development. I think that needs to be part of the comprehensive plan. I really do. And I think that we do. I want to announce today, one of my initiatives is, in addition to us in City Hall as the mayor and as the council and as employees, I want to bring in a city group of people as a city advisory sounding board for the people to be part of that process, to give their input. Because I know, being around city government a long time, sometimes we get full of ourselves. We can't see the forest through the trees. So we need to let the residents have a voice at the table. No, the mayor and the aldermen are the final people that have to make the decisions. That's why we elect those people. But let's call on people like you and get a cross-section, not a bunch of yes people. Let's get people that have diverse opinions. And let's go into a room and have a round table and have quarterly meetings and said, what's the buzz out there? What do you want in your community? What can we do? And then it's easier to be transparent and go back and say, here's some of the challenges. Here's why that may not happen overnight. I think that's important. To answer the question a lot shorter is, yes, we need to have a comprehensive plan, and we need to involve the people in the community, the stakeholders. Thank you.
Ken, same question. According to this member of the public, last time residents provided direct feedback on goals and priorities was 1969, 50 years ago. What plans do you have for updating the City of Peru's comprehensive plan?
As you know, since I've been doing this, I'm accessible. I was told when I ran for this, you know, you better get an unlisted phone number. The first thing I did is I put my phone number on Facebook. I want input all the time. I want our city hall to be open. We've done some of these things. Our park board right now we have the most members I think we've ever had to get more people involved in our community. I love working with our Peru CSO. Our Peru CSO is doing some amazing things right now to help grow our city. What was the other one? You know, as we know, we're looking at possibly trying to lure in a sports complex. Would be a game changer for our city. We put together a citizen committee. We have a bunch of professionals that are going to try to help us put this comprehensive plans together. I'll refer to him what he said about the downtown. I put together a plan. That's a TIF downtown. And I said, we can use these TIF funds to help the public fix up their windows or whatever they're facing, or their facades, or whatever. So we put together a match program, basically our own local grant program. And I personally went door to door with that and went from Steinberg's all the way, everybody had the opportunity to help. We would match them up to $10,000. I'm pleasant to say, we gave away, well, we didn't give it away, but they matched about $50,000. There was new awnings, people painted things. You know, we're trying to, but if you can't, the people don't want to fix up their buildings, there's not a lot we can do. We can try to entice them to do it, but they can't. And hopefully there's a mall question later, because I know my 15 seconds is coming up. But the mall, I've learned so much with that mall. The bottom line is they don't want to do anything, folks. They have no interest of doing anything. And hopefully there's a mall question later. I can elaborate more on what I know now about the Peru Mall.
There is one. And but Ken, you lead off this one. We'll talk about the sports complex more first. It was last fall, was at that meeting where plans were unveiled about a vision about sports complex, among other development, north of where the public safety building is along Plank Road. What is the status of that? And I know an equity partner was a big part of this. What is the latest on that project, that vision, that proposal?
Yeah, as you know, sports complexes are big money, big industry. And, you know, we looked at it. They're being built in other communities like New Lenox, and they are game changers financially. New Lenox is thinking about $30 to $40 million into their economy for this. We put together a concept, and that's all it was. There was a lot of misinformation that we were building this. All we did, when you go to a developer, you show them that rendering that we had rather than an empty cornfield, right? To show what it could be. And the tourism that would bring in, and the travel, and your local restaurants would all benefit from this. You got to work with the private sector on something like this, just like we did with Polar Crossing subdivision. You got to come together. You can't do it each way. But the sports complex is just a vision to make our city grow. And to be honest with you, somebody between Iowa and New Lenox is going to get this thing. And we have to make sure it's Peru. This is a good thing for us moving forward with jobs, with tourism, sales tax, everything. But mark my words, somebody between Iowa and New Lenox, there's other communities fighting for this thing right now. I think everybody reads the paper. Ottawa, Princeton, there's a lot of communities trying to get this done. And it's something that, if it makes sense, it helps our city go to another level.
Thank you, Ken. Doug, your thoughts on the idea of a sports complex development that was brought to light last fall.
Well, I was at that meeting when that was rolled out. I didn't know to the extent it was going to be such an exciting opportunity. I know back in 2017, we initially had some discussions in the city because part of the potential location for the police department, the city planner at the time suggested that there was some potential things in the works that could possibly be in the triangle, if you will, between North Peoria and Plank Road, all that land. And if the city moved the police department as a potential location up there and started putting the infrastructure, the roads, annexing the land, it could be prepped for some future type of thing. I never knew when he said that he was talking about that potential vision, but the excitement in the community for that is just unbelievable. Obviously, like Ken said, the devil's in the details. It requires an equity partner. I think it was the town of Kankakee, or Bradley or Bourbonnais, somewhere over in that area, is looking at something similar, and the city has to commit over $100 million of city money to be on that partner. So I don't know what kind of numbers that's going to be, and I don't think anybody knows for sure. And like Ken said, there's no guarantees on this, but you've got to be forward thinking, and I think it's wonderful to think outside the box. And if you can imagine that coming to our city, the impact that it's going to have on Peru, but not just Peru, but the entire region. A lot of money would come in the community. I had two little boys that played travel baseball for a long time, and boy, them were some expensive weekends that we spent. And it wasn't in the Illinois Valley, it was in Bettendorf, it was in Rockford, it was in Bloomington. And as we all know, look at the map, we're right in the middle of perfect location for a lot of things. So I'm so excited. I think let's keep moving forward and keep our fingers crossed, find the equity partners, and then go to the voters and say, are you okay? Is this what you want for your community? Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Doug, you're first on this one, and I know you touched on this earlier about Parkside and the decision that was made years ago with the agreement between the city and school. The way it stands now is that the sales tax plans after Parkside School is set to be paid off in 2026. That's according to this question here. Your thoughts on going forward with sales tax agreements and so forth when it comes to schools?
I believe it's 2028.
2028, okay.
Yeah, the question.
Yeah, the question was, what are the school sales tax plans after Parkside School is paid off?
In 2026. No, it's not. Again, I was not part of participating, but back then, I don't know how they did it, but there'd be the informal city council meetings, and the press would be there, and everybody would be there, and there'd be these open discussions, and usually on the Wednesday night, the week before the meeting. So there was a lot of talk about the Parkside concept, so we don't have to raise property taxes and come up with this sales tax that the city could pass. And as I said, without repeat myself too much, the voters approved that by 79-point-some%. But I believe the last bond payment is in January of 2028, if I recall correctly, is when the city's obligation is ended. But as I understand, and we're going to hear about that, the school has asked for the city to continue some partnership. The devil's in the details. I think the city has to provide about $1.5 million or $1,550,000 a year to meet that obligation that the voters told the city to do 18 years ago. And I don't believe the school's asking for $1.5 million. I think they're asking for substantially less money than that $1.5 million. But we're told, no, you're not going to get it. So that's a bad thing for the school, as I said earlier. So I think that the city needs to have discussions, and I think they need to be open and transparent. I looked at the minutes, and there was one sentence in one meeting that said there was a discussion about a 0.5% sales tax extension with Parkside School. And the rest of the minutes are talking about all the discussion, but there's one line, and then there's a month later, there's minutes where Ken Kolowski reported, I've informed the city, or I have informed the school district that we will not extend the agreement. So I think that's what the school now is faced with. They need to go out to the public and say, here's what's going on. We asked, we were denied. I don't even know if the alderman know to the extent that it was denied, but he told the school, you're not getting any of that money. So my question would be, if the voters said, let's pass a sales tax to fund Parkside School, are we repealing that tax? Are we going to say we don't need that money if we're not going to give it to the school? I think we should partner with the schools. I believe that. I think Mayor Baker and the alderman at the time did absolutely good government. I think it's wrong. I think it's bad for the city of Peru if the city of Peru says, we're not partnering with you, Peru schools, go ahead and raise your property taxes. Because, folks, what's good for the city of Peru and is good for the city or the school district is good for all of us. We're on the same team, and we are the retail hub of North Central Illinois, and more people come into our city and spend sales tax dollars than the people from Peru. So let's get them, continue to help them keep our taxes down. So I will partner with the Peru schools. That's my promise, and that's my pledge.
Thank you, Doug. Ken, I know you have eager to respond on this question about the sales tax agreement at Parkside.
Yeah, I've had multiple meetings over the years with our some of the school board members. They came to us. I've had meetings with Superintendent Craven about this issue, and I'm looking forward to the meeting that they're having here coming up in March. I'd like to know what they're at. Be specific. What are you asking for? What do you need? What are your plans? Is this expansion for Northview, or is it going to be was it going to be the Parkside? There's just so many questions that need to be answered. How much money are they looking for? How much do they need help? The city of Peru has always backed our school system, always. I mean, when the referendum failed to build Parkside, city stepped up 18 years ago, took care of it, built the 2 schools. Now things are changing. It's a couple years left on that bond. It has to be an open dialogue. Like I said, I personally support the schools. I think the schools are your foundation of your community. But again, we need to know the details. I can't just rush into it and just say, we're going to extend this. You know, but if we do, I'm just being honest with you, that's all. If we do this, and we were counting on that to come off of our books, what are we going to do? Okay? Like I said, I'm looking forward to working with the school. Like I said, we had some informal meetings about this over the last couple of years. Actually, they came to me my first year in office, and I said, 2028, I don't want to, what are we talking about here? So now the time's kind of up. Like I said, I support the schools. The city of Peru supports the schools, but we just got to take a lot deeper dive into this and find out what's the best thing for the community, you, the taxpayer, the schools, everybody. It can't be one-sided. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ken. And Ken, you lead this one off. And now, time for the Peru Mall. Three parts into one question. I mean, the first part is what will be happening with the mall. I know, you know, like you said, that's not all the cities can really control that. What will you do as a mayor to entice business to the mall? And to your knowledge, have any new developers shown interest in the mall?
I got to be very careful here. Because, okay, 3 minutes, right? The mall, they have zero interest in doing anything. They don't want to develop. When I met Ashley's Furniture, remember, up by Hobby Lobby, the owner come up to me and says, what's with these guys across the street? And I says, what do you mean? He said, we tried to take the JCPenney's location. We were going to put Ashley's Furniture in the mall as an anchor to get some life into that building. They wouldn't even talk to them, wouldn't return their calls. It's horrible. They have zero interest in doing anything. Everybody remembers the road going in? Holes, terrible. When you going to, well, we're getting bids. Well, nothing. Wait a little bit longer. Oh, we're looking into it. Wait a little longer. Finally, we said, that's it. They're not listening. We sent them a letter. You either fix that road or the city of Peru will, and I'll put a $300,000 lien on your building. The next week, that road was done. They are, I don't know what their books are. Maybe they're using this as a loss leader. They own other malls, things like that. But we don't control what they do with their business. I mean, they were gifted a TIF district 4 years ago. They've done zero with that. They don't even put signs on the building that says what's in there. So the mall, it is the biggest waste of real estate probably in the county. And we're doing $750 million in retail in this town in spite of them. Imagine if you got anything in there. If Ashley's Furniture went in there, maybe that would have inspired a little bit more into that building. But I don't know the future for that building. There's investors trying to buy it. They won't sell it. The Sears thing, that's a whole nother issue that I don't want to talk about that one either.
Thank you, Ken. Doug, your thoughts on, if elected, what's your approach to the Peru Mall property?
Well, in light of what the mayor said, and I strongly suspected was accurate, that the mall doesn't want to do anything. The mall doesn't want to do anything just yet. They're going to let it get run down as much as they possibly can. They're going to let it become dilapidated as much as they can. They are continuing to go in to get the real estate tax assessment reduced to the bottom. I think it was, correct me if I'm wrong, $38 million at one time, and then it went to 20, and now it's 10. They're going to want to get it to the bottom, and then they're going to come back to the city, and they're going to say, now we want to redevelop the mall, and we want 100% of the tax increment we redevelop it, and essentially the Peru taxpayers are going to pay for the redevelopment of the Peru Mall. I would be adamantly opposed to that. I think we have let the Peru Mall get away. It was a wonderful thing in the heydays. We all hung out there. You know, when we were in high school, the boys went up there to meet the girls went up there to meet the boys. We probably had a lot of people get married out of it over the time. But those days are over, and it's time for the city to become incredibly aggressive with all legal means to say, if you're not going to bring the mall up to our compliance, we should get administrative search warrants. We should search that building. We should find out what kind of property maintenance violations they are. We should spend money. We should be aggressive. And maybe we should take ownership and sell it and help develop the Peru Mall, because they want to get the tax assessment to the absolute bottom. And folks, if that happens, that's going to hurt the school districts. We don't rely as a city. We rely on sales tax. But that would be devastating, and it already is. So I think we have to be very aggressive. I think the mayor, I think the previous mayor, and I think the aldermen have done everything they reasonably could. They've been reasonable people. They've tried to work with the mall. It's time to call the mall out and say, the party's over. Now we're going to be aggressive. That's my belief.
Thank you, Doug.
How about I recap for 20 seconds?
Yeah.
Because it's inside of me, and I just want to be open and honest with you. I do have a plan for the mall. Oh, I'm sorry, too loud? I'm just too excited about the mall. The reason why you can't just go in and shut it down is because Marshall's is a very good business. Bath & Body is one of their top Bath & Bodies in their division, okay? If we go in there and we shut them down, where are those two going to go? I don't want to lose those two bodies. So I've got a plan that we're trying to get those guys out. And I'm here to tell you, I somewhat agree. The mall needs to be shut down. They don't want to do anything. We've talked about this. Inspect them, check them out, shut them down. And then we'll see. Maybe that forces them to sell. Maybe it forces a development. But again, my main concern is there's a few places in the mall that does a fabulous business for us. So you can't punish Marshalls and you can't punish Bath & Body because of the concept of how they're running their business. So malls are ever changing. They didn't see it 30 years ago when Walgreens left all the malls in this country. That's when malls started failing. I don't know if you ever noticed that. Anyway,
Thank you.
Thanks for the little.
Yep, thank you.
20 seconds.
And Doug, you're first, and this is another four-letter word that gets everybody talking. Pool.
I have to go to the restroom.
I can almost see where the pool was located years ago here. Obviously, the majority, or a big number of Peruvians voted in favor of the November referendum. Since then, a vote was made to allocate $7,500 for a pool study. And again, we'll start with Doug. I think everybody knows Ken's answer to this, but first part of this question, Doug, is are you in favor or against the outdoor swimming pool? And after that, talk about the financing of it, the ongoing costs. Obviously, the question on the ballot was specifically hotel, motel. So also, each candidate, if you could, kind of expound on that. But first thing is, are you for or against it? And then secondly, the big thing, how is the city of Peru going to pay for it?
Okay, well, I had that actually the first piece of paper on my list. I thought that would be the first question, and the easiest question, to be honest with you. Because without a doubt, this is for sure one thing my opponent and I agree on. We both want a Peru pool, and I want to see it right across there where it was before. And I want it for a lot of reasons. I'll answer the question about the finances, which is a little different part of the question. But do I want a pool? Of course I want a pool. My mom was born here in Peru, and every day as a kid, I got trucked over to Grandma and Grandpa Lane's house on 6th Street and spend my summers. I was doing cannonballs off the high dive before Ken, because I'm about 3 or 4 years older than him, and spent our summer days at the Peru pool. My 2 children grew up in this city and went to the Peru pool. I think Peru is the type of community that we should bring that amenity to the school. The financing component of it, the voters of this town said, use the hotel motel tax to pay for a pool. It was 69, so let's round up. 70% of the voters said to their elected officials, build a pool and use that hotel motel fund. So a committee was formed. It's led by Alderman Rick Osadnik, who is a very, very smart guy. He's a very methodical guy. He's being assisted by another alderman, 2 very passionate people that want to see a pool in Peru, assisted by our Parks and Recreation Director, and they are doing their due diligence. They're saying, we're supposed to go out and find a way to build a pool, because that's what the voters want. We know how much money is in the hotel motel fund every year that's coming in, and I've spoken to the people on the Peru committee, Alderman Osadnik, Sherry, and others, and I know they're kind of working backwards, which is the absolute way they should be. They're not going in and saying, money's unlimited, let's build the Taj Mahals as pools. They're doing their diligence to say, what will the hotel motel fund allow? What type of pool can we construct it? Where can we pull it? How much build it? How much money do we need to hold back to have the operation of the pool? Because within the parameters of the hotel motel fund. They, I know, are also working on the questions that are certainly going to be asked by elected officials, whether Ken's in office or whether I'm in office. Okay, if that $750,000 of hotel motel fund money is now gone, are we going to have to stop doing other projects that the $750,000 was being used and was committed to? And I know there was a pool committee recently, and I'm going to go back to another question in regard to the finances, where the finance people, the city of Peru, spoke to the Peru committee of Alderman Osadnik and these 4 other people, and they said the city's general fund is broke and is living paycheck to paycheck, quote unquote. So that's certainly a question now that that committee knows is going to have to be asked and answered. If we take this $750,000 for a pool, let's find a way to replace that $750,000. But yes, I'm glad it's asked, because it was put out there. Bernabei's not for a pool. Bernabei wants a pool, just as many. I voted for that referendum. I think it's something Peru should have, the Peru kids should have. I want it, and if I'm mayor, I'm going to move heaven and earth if I have to find a way to build the Peru pool. So Ken and I agree, at least on that thing, no doubt about it. We're on the same page.
Thank you, Doug. Ken, same question, and we're kind of just formed 2 questions in one, so we'll give you guys even more than the 2 minutes. The first part was, are you for or against the pool? And then secondly, Doug kind of touched on it. The question is, well, if you're taking money from the hotel motel, you know, it can't be spent on something else then. So first, go ahead and give your answer, which I think we already know, whether you're for or against the pool. But then secondly, about the finances, if money goes here away from other things for the pool, how do you manage that?
Yes, of course. The pool, you know, it's a double-edged for me. It's one of the things I didn't accomplish in my 4 years, and it bothers me. I take the responsibility that we don't have a pool right now, and because I didn't get it done. I'm flattered, though, on the upside, that the voters, 70%, said they want it. But I don't like to use the word I, but they also voted for my plan. That's what the vote was about, okay? The last time it was brought up for a vote, it was, we're going to raise your taxes. Well, it went down in flames, correct? Went terribly down. But they voted for my plan. I told everybody I would find the revenue source that we were told to find, and I did it. It works. Take it a step further. Jeremy, you asked about the funding and stuff. Nothing's going to suffer from this. When I made that presentation in 2022, nothing's going to suffer. Roads, nothing like that. When it failed and I didn't get it done, I purposely directed our finance team not to touch hotel motel. Don't touch it. Don't touch it. We didn't for 2 years. $2.1 million was built up, and we've done parks, roads, infrastructure. We've done all these things. I purposely wanted to make my point that this revenue source works. The other thing is, we're getting off, with this hotel motel. I don't know who married in the room, real quick. Your husband works and you work, and then your paychecks go into the checking account, right? Well, then you go out to get groceries. Well, who's paying for the groceries? We all are. The general fund will cover this expense. An alderman said to me one time, and it stuck with me, this is 3 years ago, and he said, every 4 years this comes up. Why is that? Because we're not listening. We're not listening to you guys. 70%. Do it. Because I'm telling you, I'll be honest, this could be it. With inflation and down the road, this is our last chance. That's my opinion. I said that in 2021. I said, I'm your last chance to get this done. And like I said, the only thing I would not criticize Doug on, he starts off by saying we're financially distraught and we got a financial crisis and we have taxes are going to go up and we're check to check. But yet he says he's going to build you a pool. I think we got I don't know. It's a contradiction to me. But anyway, sorry, I went over my time. It's back to me again.
Oh, no, I thought wasn't that a separate question?
No, that was the same question. We have another pool follow-up, so if you want to.
Oh, I'll work it in, Jeremy, I promise.
All right. Yep. So obviously the referendum question dealt with hotel motel to construct a municipal pool. This question is, well, once you have the pool constructed, how do you plan to cover the daily costs of salaries, insurance, water maintenance going forward? How would those costs, in your mind as mayor, be covered once the physical pool is built?
Same thing. It's the same thing with the splash pad and the cost that are here. Just Monday night, believe we're passing $100,000 renovations to the splash pad because it's a lot of repairs need to be made. The hotel motel will also cover that. You put the budget together that it takes the revenues to run it along with the payment of the structure, okay? Also, you want to get the private sector involved. We don't want to run it. Like you said, the cost of lifeguards and managing it, okay? Ottawa did something brilliant, and I'm stealing it from them. They hired the YMCA to run the pool. They run the lifeguards. They run the pool. The concession stand, you outsource it. You get a food truck guy that says, here, you want 3 months of revenues. You let them run that. Keep your costs down, okay? Like I said, get the Y to do the day-to-day. And then I got the contract from Ottawa, and it works. Ottawa's doing a really good job with that. But the day-to-day operations would be included in those expenses. It's like the splash pad. There's expenses with the splash pad. How do we pay for that? Well, it goes into the general fund, and we pay for it. There's a lot of things that we're doing that if you build things, yes, there's maintenance. You build a police station, there's maintenance. There's operating costs to do on all these things. But to my mind, and what everybody I've worked with on this, we can do this, and I believe it's an asset. And I'd follow up by just saying, when it happens, being optimistic, we will use this as an economic driver. We will brag when we go to the shows to try to lure someone into our community with a factory or retail. We'll say, hey, look at a brand new pool we just built. We got this amenity. We have Schweigert Stadium. We have, all these things. We will use that to draw people in. Last thing I'll say real quick, I get jokes about this all the time. It's not about swimming, folks. And you look at me like, what's he talking about? It's about memories. Who's gone there? Everybody remember it? Close your eyes. Can you hear the bell? Can you smell the popcorn? Memories. That's what we're stealing. And heaven forbid we get our kids out of the basement and get them outside and put the phone down. You know, nobody's going to, if you lose in a video game, you're not going to lose your life. But if you don't know how to swim, kind of interesting. But it's a community thing. Bring your kids and your families together.
Thank you, Ken. And Doug, again, and feel free to add what you wanted to before, but this particular question was when and if, or I guess if and when a pool is built, your thoughts on funding, ongoing maintenance, staffing, so forth.
Very good, Jeremy. First of all, I think Ken said that he has shown that there's, what, $2.5 million in the hotel motel fund that could be used for the pool. That is unequivocally not accurate. It's not true.
There was.
A very detailed report was given to the mayor and the city council, and the city council is well aware of this, and the mayor should be aware of this. That money is committed. The pool committee, led by Alderman Sadnick, was informed of that just a couple of weeks ago when they were told that that money is not in the hotel motel fund earmarked for a pool. The mayor has signed himself resolutions sent to the state of Illinois that those funds are committed to other projects within the city and have been for a long time. One of the aldermen said, don't tell people that that money's available for a pool. Now, once those obligations are committed and paid out, and there's $2.5 million, if we want to redirect the money, that's great. Do I have a plan to pay for the pool? Yes, I have a plan to pay for the pool. And it's part of the discussion, or to make up the loss of the hotel motel money, and that is to work with the Peru schools and the extension of that tax. Ken also said he has no idea what the Peru school wants. Well, if he doesn't know, why do I know? The school has prepared and presented to him 3 bonding schedules in the amount of money that they want from the city, and it is nowhere near $1.5 million. There's $1.5 million out there, and if they want $500,000, $600,000, $700,000, maybe we go to the voters and say, maybe we continue that. We build the pool, we leave the hotel motel money to fund all the other projects we do, and we help the schools, and we have this other money to construct a pool in the city of Peru. Why don't we have those conversations? Because I've done my homework, I've got all this information. It's no secret. I believe Ken has this information. If he doesn't, I don't know why. It was really easy to get. It's Bernardi Security has done 3 scenarios to bond it out over 13 years, 10 years, 7 years, and they're very, very affordable numbers. And I don't think those numbers were brought back to the city council. I think the city council's been kept in the dark on this. It was a flat no, and we're going to go back to the table. So if the hotel motel fund is going to be used, maybe we can use some of that excess money, especially if the voters tell us to do it. I think it is a win-win situation for everybody, and I promise I'm going to do just that. I'm going to work to try and get something done so we get the pool and we get the kids, and it's not going to have an adverse effect on anything else in the city of Peru.
Thank you, Doug. And kind of on that same idea, and Doug, you'll be first with this one.
Okay.
As mayor, what activities do you see that maybe you could bring during the wintertime specifically for children in our community? What do you see as maybe missing that could be a possibility for wintertime activities for kids in the city of Peru?
Well, if we could get some snow once in a while and keep it, we'd obviously have the kids sleighing down the hill at McKigney Park, and that's been so hit and miss. Obviously, this ice skating rink, and with the chiller grant coming in, everybody knows we got a $600,000 grant. We were expected that we had to match it, I think, with $800,000. But to nobody's fault, the estimate of what additional money that we were going to need is substantially higher. I think it was $600,000 in a grant. The city had to come up with, I think, $800,000. The final bids just came in. It's going to be substantially more than $800,000. That particular project, as part of the state resolution that the mayor signed and sent to Springfield, said that money's coming out of our hotel motel fund. I don't know if it's $1.6 million, $1.8 million, whatever that we have to come up with it, but it's substantially higher. But we're going to have the most state-of-the-art hockey facility with these great chillers. We're going to be able to use it, I think, from the day after Thanksgiving, you're going to see that being used. We should have youth leagues for hockey. It's becoming such a popular sport across the country and internationally as well. So that's one thing, obviously, that we can do for the kids. And then the other thing is, if this city center project takes off, there's some talk of potentially the concept of indoor facilities as part of that, well, on that triangle north of the police department. Because you're right, kids are on the phone. I mean, we all have our phones here. We were told to turn them off. So it looks like everybody followed the rules because nobody's getting text messages or phone calls. But we've got to do that and go back to what it was in the old days. And I think those are the type of things that we can look at.
Thank you, Doug. Ken, same question, specifically winter activities for kids in Peru.
Same thing. I was there before I got elected to be mayor. I helped Dave Bartley and some others. I believe, Ms. Mazak, you were there. This was 5 years ago, and I spent the day over there putting up the fencing and everything else. I'm passionate about it. Again, get the kids out of the house. It's disappointing. We were hoping to have the chillers in this year. It didn't happen. But again, we got visions for this. Like I said, leagues, family skate, theme nights. Again, it's a community thing. And that's the main thing. You got the ice house over there. Adam Thorson's got a lot of great ideas to, get an activity and draw people into our community. I go over there at night and I'll go, where are you guys from? Oh, we're from Princeton. There's nobody got anything like this. And I said, well, wait till we get the chillers. You'll skate potentially from Thanksgiving to St. Patrick's Day. But part of that grant was just not the chillers. That part of that grant is drive around when you leave today. Take a look at what's going on in Washington Park right now. That's the overall concept. It's just not the chillers, because I don't see a lot of skaters in this room right now. I know I don't skate anymore. But part of the grant, the overall project, you're going to be able to go look the sidewalks through Washington Park right now. You're going to be able to go from the splash pad. If you got a stroller or a wagon, or heaven forbid you're handicapped, you can go right through now. The entire thing is all connected now. And there's more to just the winter activities to this, because we didn't want to isolate just one thing. That's one of the criticisms I get about not maybe pursuing any grants for the swimming pool. No, I didn't, because there was no reason to, because I didn't have the support for it. So that's why we went after this grant, and we got it. Took two applications to get it, but it's definitely going to be an asset for winter and for our entire community.
Thank you, Ken. Our next question, something that we all deal with, whether it's in our neighborhood or just driving around town, and that's roads. This question was, what are your plans for road repairs? Specifically, West and Calhoun Streets was this specific, but I guess you can take that or just make it a broader answer, Ken, and then Doug, road repairs in the city of Peru.
I touched on that in my opening. When I got into office, we averaged about $400,000 to $500,000 a year in above-ground infrastructure. That's your streets. Took it to $1 million every year. We've doubled our infrastructure, and it shows. We have this thing, it's called a PASER program, and what it is it's like a computer that analyzes the roads. It takes the pressures off of myself, the alderman. Hey, I want a road. How do you pick and choose what roads you want to do, right? Hey, my buddy needs a road. Well, it doesn't work that way. So we have this PASER program that rates them. Excellent, poor, terrible, okay? Yellow, green. And a funny story, my city engineer comes to me and he says, we got a problem. I said, what's that? He says, we're going to have to redo the PASER program. I said, why? We just did it, because you only do it so many years. He goes, because you're replacing too many roads too quickly, that we're attacking this so much, the PASER is no longer needed. So we're going to have to invest in that. But I want to make sure our roads, keep attacking them. There's no reason. Up by Domino's, down on Water Street. And it's the entire town, too. We don't isolate certain areas and get favoritism. We try to budget. Each ward gets a little bit of everything. But it's something that, and I've learned something, too. It's like, if we got $100 million, would you do every road the same year? No, because then they all fail at the same time. That's why it's a process. You do these certain roads, and then 30 years from now, You do those roads that you did 30 years ago. So, but like I said, it was a high priority of mine, and we've accomplished it a lot.
Thank you, Ken. Doug, same question. What are your plans as mayor if elected for road repairs in the city of Peru?
Well, this is one of those things we certainly agree on for the most part. You probably remember, I don't know if it was 2014-ish, the city passed a half-cent sales tax to be earmarked for infrastructure and included roads. And I think we're up to about $25 million in infrastructure improvements since that sales tax was put in. And again, from people more outside of town using our roads. So that's pretty fair to say, not just charge us for our roads, charge the people that are using those roads. So that tax has been in place for many years. I think we should continue it. And it has been a godsend for the city of Peru, because if you think about it, had that tax not passed, and it was a 4-4 vote because it was a tax. The mayor at the time voted a yes vote to get that tax to pass. There's been $25 million of infrastructure done in the city of Peru because of that vote. And can you imagine if that didn't happen? We'd be $25 million behind. So we get about $2.5 million a year now, the last I checked, towards that infrastructure. We spend about another $1 million out of the general fund. We spend about $250,000 out of state motor fuel tax. So all of a sudden, we're spending $4 million a year on infrastructure, and we need to continue to do that. The other piece of news that people need to realize, and it's nobody's fault, the city's old. We've been around a long time. There is up to $200 million in infrastructure needs in the city of Peru. In the next decade, we are potentially facing $200 million. That is a staggering figure. I look at Jim Lukosius, he's probably thinking, why am I the chairman of the Public Services Committee? Because that's under his bailiwick. Now, he has to work with the mayor and he has to work with all the city councilmen, but that is a lot of money. And again, it's nobody's fault, because when you have 100-year-old copper lines, you got to fix 100-year-old copper lines. And I think it was a brilliant move by the city officials to say, when the state was coming in, we're going to blacktop Route 6. No, we're going to earmark money to do the infrastructure underneath it, because can you imagine they would have blacktopped the road and then the water breaks keep happening and West Clock's a disaster again. So it was an opportune time. But I'm not exaggerating. $200 million, whether it's wastewater treatment plants, whether it's deep sewers, whether it's the 134 electric interconnect that we have to have. If the city of Peru is going to have poised for continued growth, we're going to have to be prepared for that. So thank goodness we have that infrastructure tax, and we're going to fix the roads, and we're going to continue to do all those things under a methodical, strategic spending plan. Thank you.
Doug, you're first with this one. What are your thoughts on municipal consolidation with adjacent communities, specifically Dalzell and LaSalle? I think, one of the ideas is, I know Peru has an agreement with Dalzell when it comes to water, or it's been talked about, or even just city equipment, snowplows and so forth. And we'll start with you, Doug. Your thoughts on, should there be more of that happening where Peru and LaSalle, Dalzell consolidate or share services?
Yeah, I think nothing should be off the table, but it's a very complex issue. It's a very challenging issue. It can be sometimes an emotional decision for the people in the community. We only have one model of shared services in the Illinois Valley. And I take great pride in being the leader of that and bringing Illinois Valley Regional Dispatch, at least for my part. But we were able to bring LaSalle, Peru, Oglesby, Mendota, Spring Valley, Earlville, Leland, Utica together, and now Dalzell Police and Dalzell Fire Department are joining the Illinois Valley Regional Dispatch. Goes back to 2016. But you know why it was easier to get done? It was a state mandate that 911 centers had to close and you had to consolidate. So what it did is it forced the cities to come together and say, we can't go it alone. And to the credit of the city of Peru, what we did is, though we are the biggest contributor financially to Illinois Valley Regional Dispatch because of our population and our call volume, we contribute more, as we should. Dalzell's not going to contribute as much as Peru. But what the city of Peru did, and I know several of the aldermen were on the board at the time, and we had discussions, and they said, yeah, do it. It's the right thing, and it's the only way we're going to get a partnership with other area communities. So we said to LaSalle and Oglesby and Mendota and others, we said, we're all going to be equals. We're going to have to put in more money into the pot for Illinois Valley Regional Dispatch because we're bigger, but we're going to form a board of directors. And LaSalle has as much vote as Peru. Oglesby has as much vote as Peru. Spring Valley, everybody is an equal partner, and when you treat people as equals, we got something done. And by last count, the city of Peru, because of Illinois Valley Regional Dispatch, has saved $7 million. $7 million in cost savings. And it happened because in Illinois, the state of Illinois has done a lot of bizarre, weird things. But that thing they did, they recognized it was good, not just for our area, it was a statewide. So we brought our communities together. I think it takes more of those mandates because I don't know if local communities are ready to do that unless it was forced upon them, other than I go to every single 911 meeting since 2016. I was the first chairman of the board. I was the first executive director for about 6 years of the 911 system. And it is the most cordial group that I've ever worked with. And there's such a positive relationship between our local communities.
Ken, same thing. Your thoughts on perhaps consolidating more services between Peru and neighboring towns?
I'm a big believer in team. I think when the Illinois Valley does well, or if Peru does well, or LaSalle does well, we all benefit from that. When I first got into office, Dalzell did reach out to us, and they've got a well problem and a water issue out there. And I mean, I was as green as they come when we got into this, and they've got a serious problem out there. And we said, sure, if we can do this and it cost effective, so we don't have a lot of cost involved, we'll help you out. But I believe coming together. We do this now between LaSalle, Peru. Like we try to coordinate festivals. Like, you know, does LaSalle and Spring Valley benefit from the Pistol Shrimp games? Absolutely. Somebody comes over from Ottawa, maybe they go out to dinner. But cooperating with these other towns, I believe it was Mayor Baker tried to do this a long time ago. And they were going to combine LaSalle and Peru, and it just didn't happen. But if we could save each other money, work together, I would absolutely look at anything like that. But again, it's complex. But again, I'm an Illinois Valley guy. I want to see everybody do well. If we don't get it, I hope Spring Valley gets it. If we don't get it, I hope LaSalle gets it. And we benefit off each other is what we try to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. And Ken, this one's for you. And speaking of neighbors, there's a referendum question in April for the city of Oglesby about their form of government, specifically contemplating going to a city manager form of government. Princeton has one. Streeter has a city manager form of government already. First, Ken, and Doug, you second. Your thoughts on a city manager form of government? Is that something you would be interested in with the city of Peru?
I would not. I don't know Oglesby's situation of why they're making the change. I support them if it's better for them. Each town is differently. Our form of government here in Peru, it works. You know, you have 8 aldermen that make decisions. I don't get to make decisions. I don't even have a vote, right, Jim? I mean, if it was up to me, we would have had a pool already, right? Doesn't work that way. You have to have 4 votes. It's a team. And that's what democracy is to me. The style of city manager, I'll be honest, I'm not that apprised of it. I've read about it a little bit. I have been following Oglesby. But for Peru to adapt something like that, I see, you know, you would need less aldermen. You would need the mayor. What the role does the actual mayor have if you have someone above him? So, but for Oglesby, good for them. But as for Peru, no, I think the form of government we have right here in the city of Peru for 100+ years is working just fine.
Thank you, Ken. Doug, your thoughts on that question?
I probably won't take 3 minutes. I agree with that completely. What might be good for Oglesby might not necessarily be good for Peru. And the reason I don't think we need a city administrator or a city manager is we have an extremely talented group of people as our department heads. I mentioned Eric a couple of times because I've seen what he's done as our city engineer and really as city planner. He's unbelievable. We have an in-house city attorney now, Scott Schweikert. What an asset to have him in the building. We have Adam Thorson that's taken our Parks and Rec to the next level. We have hired an IT director because it's only getting bigger and bigger and bigger as a need. We have an HR director. We have people that are professionals. They hold certifications. And I don't think a town of 10,000 people needs to hire. And frankly, it would be a $250,000 cost to the city to have a city manager. And I don't think we're big enough. I don't think it's necessary. I think we have people willing to serve in city government to provide the tools to these department heads to carry out the agenda of the elected officials who should be hearing the agenda from the folks in the community. So I don't support the city manager concept in Peru. I don't think it's needed.
Thank you, Doug. Next question. And Doug, you'll be first. One of the more popular summer events is the TBM Avenger and Salute to Veterans event at the airport. I know just recently the City Council voted for their yearly contribution, which was higher than the year before. And that leads us to this question. Have other towns or cities ever been approached to help fund the TBM Avenger Salute to Veterans show at the Peru Airport?
I don't know the answer if anybody else has been approached. I think we should approach other communities. I think it's a wonderful asset for the city of Peru and for the veterans and not just the city of Peru, for the entire region. And if you have not been to the TBM Avenger, I'm telling you, you've got to get out there. It's emotional. It's really a moving thing when you see the older veterans. Some of them are still left, thank goodness, but they're crying. They're so emotional, and their children are walking them through on wheelchairs. It is something that the city of Peru should do everything they can to continue to support and maintain. I also think that the city of Peru, working with the TBM folks, should approach other municipalities and say, hey, how about a little help our way? The city of Peru, for years, decades, has been helping Spring Valley with the walleye tournament. We give a donation going back, I don't know, at least 20 or 30 years, and I've been around listening to that. I think we should look towards more corporate sponsors. And we have a lot of big corporations, and they have programs where they can allocate substantial money to help offset the contribution from the city. I think the city should take the lead, should continue to take the lead, but also look to other financial sources out there to help with that project and continue the TBM.
Thank you, Doug. Ken, same question for you. As the donation or the contribution has gone up seemingly every year from the city, have other towns or neighboring cities been approached about helping also contribute funds towards a TBM event?
This is what I was talking about before. This is the TBM event. It's our event. The volunteers are amazing. The hours they put into this thing. I mean, as soon as it's over, they start planning again for next year. This year was the one year that we did spike the contribution just because it's the 10-year anniversary of this amazing event. We have an F-16 flyovers that'll be happening this year. We added fireworks last year, which was just a huge hit. Kids loved it. We're actually, we worked with Matthew Klein. He's done some documentaries, and we, as a council and myself, he's put together like a commercial or a video about the TBM. I personally have seen it. So this will go national. This video that's going to be made is going to be all over the place, all over the country. You know, we had people from Wisconsin, we had people from everywhere to come into this event. Like I said, this year we did up the money just because it's a 10-year anniversary. As for asking for sponsorships from other communities, I'm just being honest, they would probably say no, and I would respect that, but the TBM does ask for businesses that are not in Peru to sponsor and donate and things like that. So the other communities actually are helping with this TBM, but not directly like from the government funds per se. But again, the TBM is something that it's hard work, and I support until forever, because it's amazing. When you got a gentleman that you meet that was, what was his name, Tanker Ed? The guy flew in from New Jersey, and he's like 89 years old. And I go, he flew in that? He goes, well, no, he had a friend with him. His friend is 80. I'm like, and I got a picture of him shaking his hand. And I mean, these guys, it's the pride, and there's nothing like it. It's like our Pearl Harbor parade. There's nothing else like this. So that's what makes Peru great. So we got to keep going. Nope, stays with me.
Thank you, Ken. This next question is for you. Has Peru considered bringing in another grocery store? It doesn't have Meyer this season or anything, but has Peru considered bringing in another grocery store?
Again, we're limited to what we can and cannot do. Go back to what I said about inflation. You want grocery prices down? Create more options, right? If a Kroger were to come here, or if a Myers were to come here, you're not going to get Costco's, because they base everything on population. They go, well, you got to have 250,000 people in this radius, or you're not coming. My daughter has a Costco up there in Elgin. Okay, we're not going to get that. I mean, hopefully my friends at Hy-Vee are not listening to this right now, but you know, look what Dollar Generals have done. Okay, you bring competition in, that's what's going to lower these prices. Could we benefit from a grocery store? Sure. You know, LaSalle has their Save-A-Lot. They do a phenomenal business over there. The new Ivy Food Center is doing wonderful. Options bring prices down. Again, please don't tell the Hy-Vee people that I'm advocating that again, get back to the mall. There you go. Tear down the Sears, drop a Kroger in there, and see what happens. But you can't tell these people to come. Who wants a Chick-fil-A? All right. Who wants Portillo's? They're not coming. 250,000 people in a certain radius. But in Peru, we have reinvented ourselves. We tell them population does not matter. That's how we got Popeyes. We said, don't worry about population. We've got, a lot of people don't know these numbers. The Wendy's, Applebee's, Steak and Shake. Steak and Shake in Peru, Illinois is one of their best restaurants in the division. In Peru. That's how I sell to these guys. I go, do you put population in the bank or do you put money in the bank? And that's why Popeyes came. And there's more development coming with that too. So, but again, you can't tell Portillo's to come. We've talked to them. We've talked to Chick-fil-A. No, you don't have enough people. Well, look at this retail. Look at the millions of dollars in food. So that's how we're trying to reinvent ourselves this way. Otherwise, the door gets closed on you.
Thank you, Ken. Doug, same question. And if you want to expand it to any retail,
Yeah,
but this specific was, another grocery store.
a very similar answer. You know, the free market dictates if we're going to be able to take on any additional grocery stores, or if another grocery store even wants to come to the Peru area. I know there's been some that have been sniffing around. Things take time too, so it's not a matter of let's go get another grocery store and it's going to take 6 months and we'll have one. So, I mean, if the free market calls for that option, we would certainly welcome. I don't think we're going to tell people, no, we don't want you to come to our city, because again, competition breeds typically lower prices. So I think that's an easy question to say, yeah, we'll certainly entertain it, and we'll work with them, and we'll encourage those type of businesses to come to the community. I know at one time there was rumors, and serious rumors, the names actually got out about a big chain out of Michigan that was looking at the mall, and this is the pre-COVID when the mall presented to the city the grand plan at the time for condominiums, and there were hotels were going to be there and grocery stores, and then COVID hit and that thing fell apart and it has never been able to be resurrected. So certainly we'd be open to that type of things.
I would not support another Dollar General or a Casey's. Is that okay? Actually, all kidding aside, when I first got it.
Fresh Market, Dollar General? I know.
Oh, the Fresh Market, the one in Mendota is very nice, by the way. You're right. But Dollar General did approach us. I think I was just getting very green in the job, and they were looking at another location in Peru behind the CVS and behind the car wash over there. And I told Mr. Vickery, I says, oh, hell no. I says, well, no, I'm not doing that. He goes, well, you can't do that. I says, well, we can slow them up, and thankfully it went away. But anyway, sorry about the shot at Dollar General.
Doug, this question's for you, and let's go to a less fun topic, and that is property taxes. Since 2021, my property taxes have increased by 22%. My income at the same time has remained static. What would you do as a mayor to ensure that taxes do not increase further in Peru, or what would you do as mayor to try to decrease?
Well, I think I've talked about that very topic when it comes to the city finance deficit in the general fund and the need to partnership with the Peru schools. The reality, most people, I get my tax bill and I just begrudgingly pay it. I pay it in June and then I go back in September and pay the other half because I just can't bring myself to writing that big check in June. So the property tax rate is already high enough, but that's not the city of Peru. The city of Peru enjoys one of the lowest property taxes, I think, of any city in LaSalle County. There might be a small hamlet here and there that has a lower rate, but our property tax is the lowest. However, our cumulative tax, which is still low, has the potential to grow if, because of the city finances that we currently are facing with the general fund, if that cannot be taken under control, the city has no choice but then to start raising property taxes. And if we can't forge a partnership with the Peru schools, they are going to have to raise their property taxes. And Peru, there's 4 things that make Peru attractive. No, there's 10,000 people that make things attractive. They're called the people of this city. But there's 4 big pillars when people want to come to a community. Recreational opportunities, that includes the pool. Healthcare, and thank God OS Health came in and said, we're going to make Peru the hub. Boy, we hit it out of the park when they made that decision. Schools, that's what people want to move to Peru for. Recreation, healthcare, schools, and public safety. And I'm here to tell you, and my love is in public safety. I was police chief here for a long time, and not because of Doug Bernabei. It was because of the people that worked with Doug Bernabei. We have the single finest group of police officers in the city of Peru, in the entire area. We reduce crime by 56%. People come to Peru, they feel safe. We've got the best group of firefighters. We have career firefighters that are full-time. We have 20-some paid on-call firemen. These are your neighbors that get out of bed at 3 o'clock in the morning for whether it be an ambulance assist, whether it be a carbon monoxide call, or God forbid, a structure fire. And we have a spectacular Peru volunteer ambulance service. That was a brainchild of Mayor Baker. I've mentioned him many times. In the early 1970s, the funeral homes were covering ambulance service. Well, fast forward, a lot of cities were forming ambulance service. It was cost prohibitive, and Mayor Baker created the Peru Ambulance Service, and they have served this city so well since the COVID epidemic and then the closing of the hospital. It even moved our fire department and ambulance service to even work more together. So those are the type of things that make up your community. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Ken, same question. It was in regards specifically property taxes, and as a mayor, what would you do to try to decrease them?
City of Peru has not raised property taxes, period. They're up 22%. The person should look at their state, federal, county, their library, schools, whatever. That's where the increases are. Tracy Mitchell, when we talked about this increase, there's a formula, and actually the last year, and it wasn't like a lot, but the city of Peru's portion of the taxes, property taxes, actually went down. Not a lot, but actually kind of trickled down. That's according to Tracy. But they're stable, basically. And there's no reason, no reason to raise any property taxes at all. Keep the status quo. Also, I think Doug forgot to mention that this, our property tax revenues go to 2 things only: the pensions for fire and police. That's where they go. Everything else is we're doing in Peru. We do with our own budgets and our own money. But that's what is trying to get our, the pensions, as he knows, it was a big problem for the entire state. They kicked the can down the road year after year after year, and now there's a pensions crisis everywhere in this country. So, but again, taxes should stay exactly where they are.
We're down to our final few questions, everybody, and this one's for Ken. Healthcare, obviously, it's been tumultuous, to say the least, the past couple of years. Where do you see healthcare as it stands now in the city of Peru? And as mayor, where do you stand as far as expanding? What would you like to see with healthcare in Peru?
I told you that's my biggest worry. When that thing collapsed, I know exactly where everybody knows where they were. When I was at home and my phone started blowing up, when they go, hey, IVCH is closed, and I shut up, no. It became a reality, and it frightened me. And I had to stay focused on being the leader of your community and tell you everything's going to be fine. We're going to be bigger, better. Everything's going to be fine. I didn't sleep for a year because I started thinking back. When did LaSalle, does everybody remember LaSalle's hospital? That is late. St. Mary. What year did that close? Late 70s?
1979.
Okay. And LaSalle has done amazing things, but you know,
Don't Google that, please.
Yeah.
All right? But man, he knows a lot of stuff. It was around that time. I was on the ambulance service back then as a volunteer, so I kind of remember.
But when did the tide change for LaSalle and Peru? Around that time. All of a sudden, their shopping, their downtown, their development, their growth kind of started trickling away. And I took that to heart, and I said, we got to do something. As soon as that thing collapsed, we sent my team down to Springfield. We were on it on jump. And working with AJ and OSF, I call them, text them all the time. Everything going okay? Everything's fine. If you need anything, Kenny, leave me alone. I go, I'm your first call. I want to be the first call. And as for expanding it, I might be around for this, right? But wouldn't it be great that someday, 10 years from now maybe, 20? Nah, let's 10. Why can't we have a hospital up by 80? We have the airport. We have the helipad, okay? Why can't we build a $200 million facility that people are being flown into rather than flying them to Peoria or Rockford? We can be that. And I've said those conversations with OSF. I said, this is the beginning. I want more clinics, more services, more everything. Because it was frightening. And like I said, I'm still nervous about it. I just texted AJ, Michelle, 2 nights ago.
Tell them who AJ is.
I have a hard time with his last name. Korsakova. Help me out, Jeremy. Korsagrosa.
He's the CEO.
Yeah, he's the CEO of this region. But again, I built a relationship with them. I offer them the road. I don't want to tell you guys that. You know, the road between the parking lot and the hospital was at 6th Street. I said, hey, why don't you, just take it. Expand. I want more. So it's a big deal. And I felt bad. We had nothing to do with it. City of Peru, I didn't have anything to do with it, but I took it personally. It happened on my watch. And thank God we got it back. We were hoping just for ER. But then all of a sudden, the talks. And then once he said we're going to get OB, whew, that's a game changer right there. So, but again, dream big, expand healthcare.
Thank you, Ken. Doug, same question.
Just OSF is critically important. I think by August of this year, you're going to be hearing an announcement on some very positive things. We're not the hub hospital yet. We don't have the surgical things. We don't have the intensive care. But I think that's going to flip as early as August of this year. And that's very positive news. And that's not secret news. That's out there that the OSF people are sharing. So it is only going to get bigger and better. And I don't blame Ken for the dream of having a $200 million hospital. OSF has looked at building the mega hospital and has chosen not to do that. It doesn't meet their business model. That's why they're going to build a new facility in Ottawa. They're not building a new facility at the old People's Hospital, IVCH, because it was maintained so well over the years. Thank goodness. So they're not going to close the Mendota Hospital. There was too much of an investment and build this mega hospital. There was rumors at one time they were going to build one out at 178 and Route 6 by Utica. It was on the table. It was looked at. I don't believe that is in the immediate future. Now, maybe long after we're gone, that could be changed. But it still doesn't hurt to dream and to ask and stay with AJ and say, hey, keep that in the back of your mind. But thank goodness that OSF came in, and there was discussions long before St. Margaret's purchased IVCH. OSF was in the mix. There was meetings local here on a regular basis. OSF was part of that. The Northwestern Hospital was part of that. And essentially, they chose not to do it because they said you can't sustain 2 hospitals in the immediate Illinois Valley area for 3 years. We all knew that. I think we all knew it. You wonder why the St. Margaret's people didn't know it. But that's water under the bridge. It's history. We can't turn the clock back. We can only move forward. And as early as August, I think you're going to see a significant change and increases here in Peru from the OSF, and that's very good news.
This one's for Doug, and we will turn the clock back, at least for this one, a little bit. I know you go to work every day at the Public Safety Building, the Peru Police Department, which is still a fairly new building. What are your thoughts on that? If you could go back, is there something you as mayor would change as far as the scope of that building, the cost, operations? What are your thoughts on the Peru Public Safety Building?
I wouldn't change a thing. I obviously wasn't the mayor and I wasn't an elected official, but when I came to Peru many years ago, the first conversation I had with Mayor Baker, and I didn't know Mayor Baker other than everybody knew Mayor Baker. I knew a couple of the aldermen that were on the committee, but the city council. But in my first conversation after I went through the Peru Police Department down there at 4th Street and West Street, I said, Mayor Baker, the city of Peru needs a new police department. It's small. It was an old car lot. It's not in good shape. It's not safe. And he said, oh, you're getting a new police station. And I was like, really? I really came to the greatest city in the world. He says, but you're going to have to wait your turn. He said, because we just built our new electric department because we didn't have an electric facility. He says, we don't have a city hall. The city of Peru didn't have a city hall. We were on the 4th floor of the Mirror building. People had to walk up the steps or take an elevator. Bob N.K., which was on the council at the time, and they said one of the focuses to next build a city hall, which they did. And then after that, if people remember where the old Dollar General is, or the current Dollar General is, was the old Public Works building. They couldn't fit the trucks inside the building. So that was a priority. So they said, we're going to build these things over time and with a priority. And he said, so the police department's last. And he says, and everybody knows the police department's going to be the most expensive. So it took until about 2015 or 2016 to have really serious discussions about where would we build a police department, what's it going to cost, how big, and we put a design team together. It consisted of our city engineer and planner, a couple of key aldermen on the finance committee, and others. We put together a 10-member team. It was me, it was the deputy chief of police, it was the patrol commander, it was the detective sergeant, it was the records clerk, it was the janitor. We put everybody together on this team. We got a company out of Chicago that helped us do a design for that building. And again, I talked about it earlier. There was some whispers back then about the location of putting that police department could be the catalyst for future growth for North Peru for decades to come. And fast forward, we're now talking about this potential city center. So I know there's not a police officer that you can talk to that doesn't is so proud to work in that building, and we've taken care of it. It is a 100-year building. It's at least a 2-generational building. It's big. It's not too big because we're already filling up some of the space, and every 5, 10, 20 years, as we have this growth that we want in this community, we're going to need that additional space. So I think it was a wonderful thing, and to the credit of people like Mike Ratke, who was a finance chairman at the time, we were able to finance it with 1% interest rate at the time and lock that in. It's unbelievable how the timing of that worked out so well, because that building would be costing millions and millions of dollars more if we tried to build it today. And frankly, we wouldn't be building that today. So I'm very proud of that and proud of the people that work in that building.
Thank you, Doug. Ken, same idea. The police department, the public safety building. Your thoughts on anything that maybe could have been done differently if you could turn back time on that project?
You know, I'm not very good at this part of, I don't like to Monday morning quarterback or criticize, but first and foremost, I was 100% behind at the time. I was supportive of a new police station. My dad was a cop. I grew up and I played in that building down on West Street. It was dangerous. It was dangerous for the community. It was dangerous for the people, the officers, and everything. I was 100% behind the police station. This is where I want to tread lightly because I'm not good at this, okay? Too much. $18 million, too much. Police should have been in there. The fire department should have been in there. EMS should have been in there. IVRD should have been in there. It matters where a fire station is, folks. West Street is not the middle of town anymore. What Jeff King just gave us some reports. It takes a good 20 minutes to get up on Route 80. Fire station should have been implanted in that thing. Then you could justify that kind of money, that you put all 4 of those entities. Again, and I'm not trying to be negative here, but it frustrates me knowing at 4 o'clock every day that building's closed. It's closed. If you're getting chased by somebody, don't go there. There's a phone because they go home. It's too much. It was over the top. Parking lots in the back, indoor parking garage for 30 spots. Every officer takes his car home at night. You know, I had a candid conversation with Mayor Harrell after the election in that building, and he admitted pretty much that cost him the election. I said, well, maybe not. I mean, it was the right decision, but it's just too much. It's too much money, and by the time this thing is paid off and the payments escalate every year, the last payment I think is in 2040. I don't know if the revenues will keep up with it. But that's what I would have done. And like I said, I don't like to criticize things like this, but if you asked me, I would have said fire station's going in with it, EMS is going in there, and now you got a complex. Now it's a 24/7 building. That's just me. How'd I do?
Yep, good. Doug,
I have to respond to something. The $18 million figure is completely inaccurate. We did look at housing the fire department there. We did look at housing Illinois Valley Regional Dispatch, and it became cost prohibitive. It was in the $30 and $40 million. So it was not something we could do at the time. We investigated it, we looked at it, and we made a sound fiscal decision. We also could have cut a couple of things down. We could have cut a couple things out. We could have cut the community room that is used almost daily by members of the community. And if you haven't been in that facility, go up there and use it. There's kitchens. The Chamber of Commerce is up there on a regular basis. Local realtor companies are up there. The local banks have their bank organization meetings there. They're having their lunches. There's women having card parties. There's so many things doing there. And we could have chopped that out of there. It's expensive to build a police department, the technology that goes into that, but we needed to do that. It was a sound decision. We didn't have to raise taxes. We identified it a current funding source because it coincided with the massive savings we had with the Illinois Valley Regional Dispatch, and we simply were able to do it without raising anybody's taxes. So I know I'm proud of that police department, and every single cop in there respectfully would disagree with the mayor and say that it was overdone.
Thank you, Doug. Final question before the closing statements, and this will go to Ken. We'll go out with a boom with this one. Fireworks. There's the mall, the pool, and then fireworks. All these 3 topics always get people talking in Peru for sure. There's been discussions recently, in recent years, of having the fireworks on Water Street or not having the fireworks on Water Street. What are your views on where the fireworks are held going forward in the city of Peru? Ken, we'll start with you.
Okay, that's kind of a very unusual question, right?
Pretty much, do you support keeping him on Water Street, or wouldn't mind seeing him somewhere else?
Yeah, I think you interviewed me on Water Street 2 years ago, and there was a plan in place that we were potentially going to move them up to Veterans Park, more family friendly, and with the spacing and everything else. And the public was very adamant about leaving it down there. And I've said from day one, this is your town. I listened to you guys, okay? We discussed it, and then we were going to use Schweigert Stadium, but then we realized the fireworks were going to be behind the stadium. So you would be able to sit in the stadium, they'd be behind you. So that didn't work. Then parking became an issue and things like that. But yeah, there was a plan that we wanted to move them up to more of a friendly atmosphere. And like I said, the public spoke, and immediately we left it alone. Some people still want to move them. Right now, the main thing I tried to do is we made it better. People are still talking about last year because we made it a destination, made it more fun. My wife I took that picture in 2019, 8:15, nobody there. I took a picture last year, packed. And again, we're always trying to evolve. We're always trying to do better. That's the goal. We weren't trying to move the fireworks for any other reason, just to make things better. But the public, it's their town. I left them alone. I said, guys, hey, the public doesn't want to move, leave them there.
Thanks, Ken.
And I would say leave them there moving forward.
Thanks, Ken. Doug, your thoughts on the fireworks going forward?
We certainly agree on that topic. I was at the committee meeting a year and a half ago, when the mayor floated that he wanted to move the fireworks off 4th Street. And I thought, whoa, there's 8 aldermen. And they said, Mayor, if you want to move the fireworks off Water Street, have at it. It's your decision. We'll support whatever you want. And the pushback came crazy through social media. And at the very next meeting, he says, I'm not moving the fireworks. So we're on this, and smart move. You wanted to move them, but the people said, don't do it. And I can tell you that I completely support having the fireworks stay on Water Street. It's been there for decades now. I remember as a kid going when it was Washington Park, but I think a few people's houses got caught on fire, their roofs, and they finally said, we probably shouldn't be doing that. So they moved them down to Water Street, and it's not a public safety concern more than anything we ever do with any other type of events. And as I said earlier, we got the best police department, fire department, and ambulance service around. There's an incident action plan that's in place to cover every conceivable thing that could go wrong. You prepare for those type of things and you pray it never happens. We can handle public safety on Water Street. No uncertain terms, the fireworks are staying on Water Street.
Thank you, Doug. We've reached the point, we're almost to 3 o'clock, so we'll get to the closing statements. And Doug, we'll start with you, a couple minutes. If you'd like to address the public, both here in attendance and online on Starbuck Media YouTube, just closing few thoughts.
Okay, I just have a minute or two on my closing statement, and I do want to thank everybody for attending today, whether it's in person or whether it's online. So probably the nicest Sunday afternoon we've had in a long time. And so for people to set their time aside and spend a couple hours now listening to a couple of politicians, that tells you how much people are engaged, and I suspect...
I'm not a politician.
Oh, you're one of the best politicians I know, trust me, but that's okay.
Kid from Peru.
I want to thank the people of Peru for your interest. I started out, but really for your love of Peru, and that's how I'm going to end it. And I do really mean this. I think the people of Peru really love their community. Everybody is here because they love their community. They're not here because they want to be divisive or they want to hear bad things. We're all on the same page, and I think that what makes up Peru, the love of community. Politics, folks, sometimes it can get messy. You saw a few exchanges today. It's not comfortable. That's part of the political process. That's what I started out early. You get into politics, you better have thick skin because it's not always fun. It's messy and it's uncomfortable at some time. But I hope we were professional today and we were able to get out our views of what we agree upon and some things that we don't agree upon. And the voters can then go back and make informed decisions. I think it's important that we have elections. We live in a democracy. Let the people decide what is most important to them. Today and over the next couple of forums, I hope the people conclude that I will lead this city. I'll lead it with honesty, I'll lead it with integrity, and I promise you I will be the most transparent mayor in the history of Peru. Because I want to be around people and I want to hear what the people in the community would want. I'm not telling you that when I hear from you, I'm always going to say yes. In 43 years of my career as law enforcement, in 30 years as a police chief, I've had to make a lot of hard decisions, not popular decisions. And I'm running for mayor. And if you people give me the honor, and it would be an honor to elect me as your mayor, you're going to know that every decision is based on not the next election, because I'm not worried about the next election. I promise you I'm going to make a decision, whether it's popular or not, based on what is the right decision for the people of this community. I promise that I'm going to protect you as the taxpayer. I'm going to continue all the wonderful good things that Mayor Baker's administration, with the support of City Council, what Mayor Harrell did with the support of his City Council, and the good things that Mayor Kolowski brought to this city. We're going to continue those good things. I'm going to make the hard decisions when it comes to the finances and to prevent the tax increases that I am certain that are going to continue if we don't change a course of action. So with that, I promise you that you'll be proud of me if I'm your mayor. You may not always agree with me, but you'll know where I'm coming from. So with that, I'm going to end a simple sentence. I humbly and I most respectfully ask you for your consideration on Election Day. I'm asking you to consider me to be your next mayor, and I mean that with all due respect. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Ken, your final thought?
Well, first of all, again, thank you everybody for being here today. I thought 2 hours went pretty quickly. First and foremost, I have my closing here. I hate this thing's been a. Before I read these lists, I want you to understand it's a team. None of this stuff that I'm going to read to you happens this past 4 years without Scotty Schweigert, Jeff King, Kevin Minnick, Eric Carls, Stephen Rounds, Adam Thorson, Jackson Powell, Tracy Mitchell, Chief Raymond, Jim, who am I forgetting?
Kim Reese.
Kim Reese, oh God. It's Kim Reese, HR. She does an amazing job.
Steve Rounds.
I said Stephen Rounds.
Okay, all right.
I'll run around the table. And of course the aldermen and everybody is appreciated for their efforts, what they do in Peru. The guys out snow plowing, I tell them, be careful. Yeah, 1 minute, come on, I mean. Anyway, but again, it's a team. None of this is happening without them, okay? Again, I read off these other ones here, but the other, GAF, OSF, Popeyes, Ollie's. Five Below is in the works, by the way. The Tribune always gets me on. That's back in the works. The Pohar subdivision. We've had a balanced budget every year, folks. $10,000 scholarship. I don't know how many people know that. We had an alderman in this room that had been lobbying for this scholarship with IBCC forever. I says, it's great, let's do it. So we did it. We now send kids to school from the city of Peru because of the efforts of an alderman. The Pistol Shrimp 3-year extension, the cemetery improvements, the parks. Look at our parks. When I was out looking at this job back in 2020, I went down to Sunset Park. It looked exactly the same as when I was a kid. I couldn't believe it. New equipment, invested in the girls' softball, the new field, new fence, new lighting, new dugouts. Sunset Park is completely different than it was. 28th Street Park, the pickleball courts, the tennis courts. These are improvements that make our city grow. 3 Diamond senior housing has been done. We have become more patriotic, folks. You drive up Peoria Street now, you don't see just American flags, which are great. You see all the branches of services on those flags. We're a more patriotic town. The energy, I think the energy and excitement, back. The taste, these things are important. You have to have these things to bring your community together and bring some enjoyment into our lives. We've helped nonprofits, Horizon House, Lighted Way, what's the other one I'm missing? Ivar. We're helping these guys with more because of what the important work they're doing. They need this assistance. I compliment my employees all the time. I appreciate everything they do every day. I'm about team, period. That's it. There's a phrase from a hockey movie that says the name on the front of the jersey is a hell of a lot more important than the one on the back. And that's where I'm at. Doesn't matter. I just want to see you guys happy. I want to do right for the city of Peru. you know, sacrifice the sleepless nights. I don't care. It's not about me. So I'll close by saying I'd appreciate your vote. I'd be humbled by it again. And a vote for Kolowski is basically you're voting for yourselves, because I'm going to keep Peru yours, period, end of sentence. So thanks again, everybody. I'd like to thank Doug. I think a handshake's probably uncalled for. There you go.
How about a hug?
No hugs.
He doesn't hug, I promise.
I am not a hugger. Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you, Ken. Ken Kolowski and Doug Bernabei. Can we give them another round of applause, please? And I'm sure I could speak for Doug and Ken. We want to thank all of you for coming out on this sunny Sunday. I know I've been seeing kids and families riding their bikes, which is great to see. And so we'll get out and enjoy the couple hours of daylight before it gets dark again. Remember, you can go back and watch today's forum in its entirety on the Starved Rock Media YouTube channel. Want to thank the staff here at the beautiful Peru Public Library, Marty Pack, and also Mackenzie Kavanaugh as well, keeping track of our time. Thanks for being great hosts of today's forum. And again, early voting is underway, so you can go out and vote on Etna Road tomorrow. And April 1st is the election. So thank everybody for coming, and thanks everybody for watching.
Thank you.